Well, that's probably better for everyone if I do that.
No, we'd rather see your face over what we were watching.
All right. Yeah, I can't. I'm doing this on my phone because my computer's not letting me. So
No, that's good. That's fine.
yeah.
Tony, you can start whenever you're ready.
Yeah, all right, let's go ahead and get started. So the Village of New Paltz Zoning Board of Appeals, a regular meeting of Tuesday, June 8th, 2021 is now in session. We've got 3 items on the agenda. We'll have a public hearing that I will soon ask for a motion to open and get started. We'll have an application review of 193 Huguenot Street. And we have some administrative business to take a look at. We have the approval of the minutes. We have some village board updates that's listed on here, and approval of the TA letter, which I printed out, but I haven't really reviewed it yet. So with that said, I think I was not here at the last meeting, and I do apologize for that. But a public hearing and notices were put out. Alana, can you confirm that? I went to the property today. I saw the notices up.
Yeah, everything was mailed and posted on time.
Okay, so can I get a motion, please, then, to open the public hearing?
Make a motion to open the public hearing.
Can I get a second?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so the public hearing is now open. Alana, do we have any comments? Anybody that's written in?
I haven't gotten anyone who's written in. You might want to give it a few seconds on the YouTube because sometimes there's a lag. So if we want to wait a minute or two and make sure no one is submitting anything that way.
Yeah, I think it's funny we mentioned this again because the public hearings, while we're Zooming, is a little different than if we're live. It had been in a meeting at the village hall. We'd walk in, and if there was nobody here, we'd simply wait a few minutes and then close the public hearing.
If I could too, I believe there was a written comments from the Historic Preservation Commission.
Oh yeah.
So I know that they'd asked that would just be, reflected in the record. It was an email from, it was, I believe, May 18th, perhaps. Just want to make sure that the zoning board members all received that.
I have it. Let me see here.
I did. Yes.
Seeing that, but let me just double check. I did print everything out.
And Holly, did you receive that as well?
I did not.
You might have not.
I don't have one either.
Hold on.
Can you read it to us, Alana? Is it long?
I don't think so. It's also like it's not controversial or anything. Let me find it. Hold on.
Did it lean pro or against? Did it enlighten us with anything in particular? Or
I think it leaned pro.
Good.
I have it open if you want me to read it.
Yeah, I have it now in front of me. Do you want me to read it or Noah, do you want to read it?
No, please go ahead.
All right. As part of its May 17th, 2021 agenda, the Historic Preservation Commission considered the recent discussions by the Planning Board regarding PB 2103 and the Zoning Board of Appeals regarding ZB 2102. We offer these comments and recommendations on a very architecturally significant property located within the Huguenot Street Historic District, over which the HPC has jurisdiction. Since the application does not call for new construction, it appears to present no undesirable outcomes with respect to historic preservation, specifically in reference to the 1790 stone house, which is among the most important historic properties in the village. In fact, the applicants seem quite committed to preserving and protecting both the stone house and the nearby circa 1800 house. We note that great care must be taken to preserve the historic burial ground located at the southwest corner of the parcel and which would be located at the southwest corner of the proposed lot 2. The application appears to ask for nothing that would compromise that area of the property. Care should also be taken as the details, the shared driveway and its easement are developed and refined. The 1790 stone house is an important architectural resource and nothing should be done to compromise its character as seen from Huguenot Street. We ask that our comments be considered and entered to the record of all future meetings in which these applications are discussed. And that's it.
All right. Thank you, Alana.
Yeah, and then there's no comments on YouTube, so I think we're probably safe.
All right, I'm gonna leave it open for a minute. I think what we'll do while this is open is we'll multitask a little bit. I'm gonna ask if everybody's had a chance to review the minutes of May 11th.
Have.
Sean, have you had a chance to look at
Yes.
them? All right, then while we have it here, I'm going to ask for a motion to approve those minutes and put them in the record from May 11th. Can I get a second? Oh, ask for a motion. I'm sorry.
Aye.
Okay, can I get a second?
Aye.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
I will abstain. I was not here.
I don't.
Alana, so you can enter those into the record. Can someone, I don't know the approval of the TA closure letter. Noah or Sean, do you know this, or Ashley?
So essentially, this was an old escrow account from ages ago. There was I think this is the one, there was like $2 left in it or something like that, and it was related to a zoning board application.
Oh, I have that letter. Okay, that's right.
Yeah. So you guys just need to approve my request to close it, because then it technically goes to the village board, and then the village board closes it, and then Treasury can return the money to the applicant.
Okay, can I get a motion to approve that letter?
I'll make a.
So
motion.
moved.
Can I get a second?
I second.
Aye.
All right, all in favor? Aye.
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 All right, so that's also approved, Alana, so you can go ahead and take care of that. Have we gotten any further comments or anybody jumping on the Zoom, which I don't really see for the public hearing?
Yeah, no further comments. And then Michelle, it doesn't look like Michelle is here either. So
Okay,
I guess one thing that perhaps if Holly could maybe just explain in case anyone in the public's watching as well, because she did submit that revised plan. If she just wants to summarize and just confirm, are you now only seeking the two variances that are on that revised plan?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
After one of our last meeting, we had gone back to the surveyor. There was a side yard variance. We were only asking for, it was, let me see, I have it right here. It was only about a little over 1.5 feet. That we needed a 1.92 inch feet for, that we were requesting a variance for. And we were able to have the surveyor go back and reconfigure that so we could avoid that. So we do not now need the side yard variance. And that was the recent survey that we submitted.
and that was confirmed by Corey in his email. Alana, can you confirm that as well in that letter? Everybody had a chance to read that letter, Noah or Sean, that email?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Yes, I did too.
All right, so then you're withdrawing that variance application, and we will have just 2 area variant applications for front yard and for distance from stairs to the property line. So we actually, one is for the
no.
30%, right, of the,
No, it's not the distance from the stairs. That was the side yard variance.
right.
It's the front yard variance and the driveway variance.
so it stairs to the property line, which is 20 feet. You listed the variance description pretty close together here on both of these. I'm gonna read
I
them
think
to
what
you.
they are is, if I may, so the first one, it's a variance of 16.1 feet, and that's for the 50-foot front yard setback. And that it is, I believe, measured, I guess, from the dwelling stairs, but to the front lot line versus from to the side.
All right,
Hotline?
I had Alana send me all 3 of the applications. The first one is easy. It's just the 30, lot exceeds the 30% of the frontage. So I have that one. I have the other 2 here in my hand, and none of them mention those numbers, Ashley.
So they didn't mention the numbers, but back when the application was, I think, originally submitted, Corey had looked at the plan and figured out, we had asked him what the actual size of the variances were, what feet were required. So he had measured those and then looked at, again, the most recent revised plan and gave the applicant, I believe, shows the figures on there, and he had confirmed that as well.
I have
So
them
it's-
both. I don't see these. No, I have here an area variance due to non-conforming pre-existing structures, 18.08 feet from stairs to property line versus 20 feet.
And that was for the side yard, I believe.
Right, that's the side yard that we don't need that one now.
Okay, that's good. Let's get that one out of there. And then just so and listen, it's important that whatever we're issuing a variance for, that these numbers are accurate. This is important. At some point, this is the only record that we're gonna have to what we approved or what we denied.
You'll also have the resolution too, Tony.
Yeah, okay, but I mean, are this gonna be entered in the record, this application? When it's gonna be in the file, right?
Yeah, we
It should
still
be.
have it, but we also have all the other supplementary materials, including the maps and the comments with Corey's notes.
Yeah, I know, but this should be accurate.
And the surveyor has marked on the plan the exact dimensions.
I know, but this should be accurate. I get all the other stuff will be documented, but this is probably when I've bought properties in town, and whenever I go back and I look at the variances that were awarded, this is the first thing that's on the front of the building file of these applications. And I think they should be as accurate as possible,
Okay,
what we're asking for.
So I
So
think
here
what it
just-
was with this one too, I just did pull up the application for the front yard variance, and it said it was a variance of 16.08 feet. Where now it's 16.1 based on, I think, the revision that was done.
okay.
So that
may be-
one's changed just a little bit. The number was in the application, but it's
Yeah, I
just,
see it at 16.08. So that's correct.
so now it's 16.1 under the new plan that's been
All right,
submitted.
All right, that's okay.
And I believe that's on the, that's marked on the plan itself.
Okay, so
And then
I
the
have-
numbers for the 30, for the driveway frontage, that wasn't measured. I asked Corey for that. If he could just calculate it so that we knew what that one was as well. And the portion of lot one frontage, that's covered by the driveway is 9.28. The total lot one frontage is 21.39 feet. So they're seeking to cover 43%
Yeah,
of
that's
the
in there.
frontage,
Okay.
where 30% is required
all
or
right.
allowed.
Okay, and I
we've
didn't have those numbers, so I apologize, but that was not
No,
given to
no,
me.
I've got them on here. They jive with what Ashley's saying. That's fine. Did you want to, we still have the public hearing open. Ashley, was there anything that you wanted from the applicant in the detail of a plan, or is this good?
No, I guess if there's no one from the public, no comments that Alon is receiving, then
Yeah, still nothing, so you can.
All right, with that said, can I get a motion to close the public hearing for 193 Huguenot Street?
I'll make
So
a
moved.
motion.
Can I get a second?
Aye,
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
aye.
All right. So the public hearing now for 193 Huguenot Street is officially closed. As I get myself comfortable. Okay, I was not here for any initial discussions. But I've reviewed this. I went out to the property. Before we go through any factors, I just have a couple of questions for the applicant, Holly.
Sure.
So walk me through, I'm gonna ask some questions. This, obviously, this was at one time 2 lots. It was condensed down into 1 lot. Was the driveway, as in the picture you showed, that driveway that's off to the side that reaches the house, that one right there?
Can you see
Was
it?
that there at the time that this was condensed into 1 parcel?
Yes, that driveway has been there for hundreds of years. There was a farm over here, and this driveway was used as part of this farm that we never owned that, but that was a shared driveway even back then.
Yeah, no, it says 240 years. I just want to make sure that's the actual driveway. There's
Yeah.
been no change to that driveway.
Well, the driveway actually was went around, it went all the way back, and it went around in a circle, and it was there, but it was different, and to the extent that it went further back, and it also serviced the house to the right, the farm house to the right. So, but it's always been there.
Okay.
yeah.
The horseshoe driveway does not look like it's really been in use for a very, very, very long time.
It's always been in use. It's just that really there's only one person living there. I mean, that also is original to the house. It's just there's only one person living there, so I don't think it gets a lot of use right now, but
Yeah, I saw the person there. It just happened to be pulling in. He actually pulled in if you look at that horseshoe driveway, the first entrance, he actually pulls in on that first entrance.
Yeah, he
And then
parks over
pull-
here.
Yeah, he parks on, go ahead, if you bring it up.
Whoop, sorry, I gotta go
That's
back.
okay.
He parks over here.
Yeah, he parks on the left side, that way, if you, on
Yeah.
if you're facing the house, the left side of it.
That's right,
So,
exactly. Yep.
I looked at your application. I do agree. I do not think using that horseshoe driveway to connect it into the garage is really feasible. You'll be knocking out a stone wall. There's power lines. There's poles. There's trees that have been there for a very long time.
Right,
That would
that's the wall
probably-
right here. Yeah,
Yeah. And in some ways, that would most likely impact the character of the neighborhood more than just leaving it as is right now.
well, that's what I was saying in the last two meetings. I think it would really ruin the whole character of the property.
No, I don't want to force you to do that. I don't disagree with you. As I walked on that property today, I had your applications with me and I was just making these thoughts to myself. I have not discussed this at any point with my fellow board members. This is just my own, again, I was not a part of the initial discussions, nor did I watch the last meeting, which is I didn't rewatch it. I'm just making these, I wanted to make these just clean and unbiased observations from what I saw when I went out there. So, okay, so that driveway was there, and now you're looking, so that I understand this again, you're looking to separate these two parcels. And obviously the driveway and the coverage of that is one of the precluding factors to stopping that, as well as the variance for the. for the distance
It's
of the
not
front yard.
stopping it. It just would be a shared driveway with shared utilities, and there would have to be an easement for
When
that.
I'm saying precluding or stop preventing it, it's preventing the separation of the two parcels. Without that variance, you need to alter that driveway if we
Yes,
don't give you a
exactly.
variance. So
Correct.
that's what okay. Those were really my initial interpretations, or just feedback from what I've got when I went out there. Noah and Sean, do you have anything for Holly that you'd want to continue discussions from the last meeting, or have further questions?
Michael Tierney's also on this call, so he's.
Oh, hey, Michael, I'm sorry.
That's
You
okay.
popped on. I wasn't looking up.
I don't have any further questions or comments on this application.
Sean?
I'm good.
Okay. Michael?
No, I have no further questions.
Okay, so Holly, what we generally do in the next step is, without making into an official vote or anything like that, what we basically do is we go through 5 factors to how we determine whether or not we want to issue a variance. And it's not a situation where if you don't meet one of the criteria, it's an automatic disqualification. Things are judged in percentage, if it's self-created, how self-created is it? Is something that's overwhelming? Is it an overriding factor to the, that just wipes out the other 4 factors, even though you may be in compliance with those other factors that we look at? So what we do from this point is we go through these 5 factors and we ask ourselves these questions. And then what I'm going to do, we're not going to vote, but we will get a feel to whether or not we're going to approve or deny this application. And from that point, we would ask Ashley then to write a decision and be prepared to make an official vote in our next meeting. Okay, so that's the process to how this works out. Does anybody have any questions about that? Ashley, do you want to add anything to that?
No, just that, I'm not sure if Holly's familiar, but it's the state law area variance. It's a balancing test. So as the chairman had noted, it's these 5 factors that are weighed, and the board, I'd ask them to go through those factors for each of the variances separately. I know that there may be some, overlap there, but just so that it's helpful for me to draft a decision that way when if you go through for both of them separately.
Okay.
My only question would be, we also need to go for a public hearing for planning board. And from what you're saying, if the decision isn't made tonight, then would that prevent us from having the public hearing for planning board in next month, or I don't know, I guess maybe the next meeting? Like, would we
No,
have to
and-
wait for that?
Yeah, so you'll need a decision from this board to go really further with the planning board. So this board meets next July
13th.
13th.
Well, our meeting is prior to that, I think, is it not?
No,
That's this board.
That's your July meeting for the zoning board, Tony.
Oh, we're July 13th.
Yes.
I mean, the planning board can to schedule a public hearing. And if we denied this, they'd simply withdraw the public hearing that was scheduled. Am I correct? Would it really matter for the applicant?
Yeah, I mean, if we could just get it scheduled so that we don't lose that month, that would be, ideal.
Well, that would be, I'll leave that up to the planning board. We're gonna take.
Yeah, I
this
think
as
that's
far
really
as
a
we
question
can
for
tonight.
the planning board, because it'll depend. I mean, they'll need to have a plan before it, that's being pursued. That way the public has an opportunity to look at whatever plan the hearing's going to be on.
Okay, yeah, we'll take it as far as we can on our end, Holly.
Okay.
From that point, it would be in the hands of the planning board. And we had a liaison officer here, she might be able to relay where we were leaning, and then they can make further determinations, but that would be entirely up to them. Ashley, did you want us to do each application separately when we go through these 5 factors, or did you want us to just?
Yes,
put them
if you
together?
could,
Yeah,
please do
okay,
them
I thought that.
separate.
Okay, so let's start then. We're going to go through 5 factors here for the first area variance application, which is this is the driveway that exceeds 30% of the frontage.
Okay.
All right, we're going to take a look at that one first. And the first fact that we look at, and I usually pose these questions to the board members, Holly, and then we'll talk about it. And how long we talk about it really depends on how divided we are, or how controversial the topic might be. The first thing that we look at is whether an undesirable change would be produced in the character of the neighborhood, or a detriment to nearby properties would be created if we granted this variance. Okay, so I'll lead off. Speaking with that, I actually think that if the applicant was forced to do something to the horseshoe driveway, which she would not need a variance for the most part, at least at some point, that would probably produce more of an undesirable change than simply allowing for this driveway, this 30%, which was, as from what I understand, was there and built anyway.
Yes.
I'm,
So the driveway's been there, but the variance is because the lot line or the new lot line is going to make it so that it exceeds this 30%
Yeah.
frontage requirement. So
Is this, just out of curiosity, when you say new lot line, Ashley, is this just simply going back to the was there been I mean, when this was 2 parcels, I'm looking at the plan right here, were these the initial?
I don't
boundary?
know.
No, I have it here. This was the original configuration. This is the stone house right here.
Yeah,
And this is where the second house is, right here. And
Okay.
this property was subdivided. This was not really sure
Holly,
about.
was there no access for the second property to the road, and this has simply been added?
No, there was access. There was definitely access, because as I mentioned before, the farm was using this. So,
No, I mean, as far as was there access, I know that driveway's always been there, but as far as how the lines were drawn, was there an official access to that back property, or were they just basically
Yes.
going? There was,
Yeah.
okay.
Mhm.
So it's been moved to an
I
extent.
mean, I don't even really know if it was official, but we used it. So
Okay.
I guess we.
But it is after the fact. I mean, the driveway was down and now these lines have come in,
Mhm.
right? Okay. Anybody on the board, what's your thoughts on this? Feel free to contribute.
I just wanted to say that I don't think that this creates an additional hardship or quality. I think it's fine the way it is. And I think that I can't remember the exact language that we use for this. Can you rephrase, can you ask the question again, Tony, that for the first question on the balancing code?
Sure, it's whether an undesirable change would be produced in the character of the neighborhood, or would it be a detriment to nearby properties if we granted this area variance?
Okay, and it's my opinion that this does not create a detriment to the community or any sort of compromise to the quality.
Sean, you're upside down, but I'm sure
I
we'll be
am?
able to hear you properly. Yeah, that's okay.
Sorry,
That's all right.
we'll do that. Better?
Sean, what would you like to, what's your thoughts on this?
I'm good. So I don't have any questions or anything like that.
Okay. And any opinion on, would there be an undesirable change to the,
No, I think it's, this is, if you're gonna split the property, that's probably the reasonable way to do it.
Mike?
Yeah, I agree. I don't think there's any negative impact on the rest of the neighborhood.
Okay. The second factor that we look at is whether the benefits sought by the applicant would be achieved by some other method that's feasible for the applicant to pursue, other than this area variance. So the applicant is seeking to put it back into two parcels. There's been a line drawn that's been drawn over where a driveway is, should they decide to split the property. You're moving it, but that's okay, Holly. I'm not referencing.
Oh, yeah,
it.
but I wanted to go back to the survey so you could see the survey.
Okay. Oh, I have a copy of it here. I'm looking at it. Now, I don't, obviously there's, you can say don't use the driveway. You could say use the horseshoe and park your cars there. But I do think that because the house has been used a certain way for a very long period of time, as has the farmhouse, that I don't really see a feasible method that would benefit the applicant and at least not significantly impact the first question that we asked. So from my own opinion, I don't see a solution from a construction standpoint to alleviate that. Noah?
It occurred to me that potentially they could have some sort of shared driveway scenario that meandered around, but it didn't sound like that was going to be feasible through that. There's a big desire not to have shared driveways as a matter of course. And so I think that in the end makes it not feasible to pursue that as a design.
What was the use of the farmhouse, Holly, prior to this this request to separate the parcels?
Well, originally when it was built, it was a barn, but then when my father acquired the, I guess I could go back to that D plot. We had two grandparents that my father's father, my mother's mother, that needed a place to live. And so we converted the barn into two apartments for our grandparents.
So then in essence, and that's legal, correct? You've got a COC for that, right?
Yeah.
It's all good?
Everything's legal, no violations, everything. We have COs and everything.
So in essence, this was a shared driveway on a single parcel. Regardless, it was still shared by two structures.
Yes.
Regardless, yeah, okay.
Yep.
So, okay. Any questions on that, Mike or Sean?
No questions from me.
Okay.
No questions.
The third factor is whether their requested area variance is substantial. I think it's, what are we looking at? 9 feet as a percentage on 21 feet. So it's 13, that's 43%, which is 13% above the 30%. Now, this is a relative number, Holly. We really, what some people might consider substantial, some might not. It might sound substantial. It's a small number may actually be substantial, and a large number may actually not always be substantial. So it really comes down to, for me, I look at it as an eye test. What does that driveway look like on the property aesthetically, if something needed to be changed or removed or added? And that's how I personally look at it, whether or not I felt it was a substantial variance or not. I did not in this case. That was, at least for me. For the rest of the board, what are your opinions on that?
I do not think this is a substantial request.
I agree.
Okay, Mike?
I also agree.
All right. Okay, the fourth one that we look at is whether the requested area variance would have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or the district. I absolutely, I think that's pretty solid. I didn't see that at all in this. I don't think I need to pontificate on that. We're leaving it the same per se. So,
Yes.
does anybody have any opinion on that as far as one way or another?
I don't have any material comments on that.
Sean or Mike, is there anything you want to offer?
No,
Okay.
No.
And the fifth, thanks, Mike. The fifth factor is whether the difficulties professed by the applicant are self-created. Most, I mean, 99% of variances we get to some degree are self-created in one aspect or another, whether how much or how big is dependent on how we review it and what the applicant is asking for. I don't see a lot of change in this. Just a quick question, Holly, what precipitated wanting to split the parcels, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, our father passed away, and it's really more of just kind of tying up his estate. My brother, who lives in the two-family back here, has a life estate to that property. So we just thought it would be easier and cleaner to do this now and kind of just tie up some loose ends with the estate.
Okay. All right. So like I said, I understand these are all to some degree how substantial this self-created variance is, what it's required is. It's always a matter of opinion to somewhat. I've seen ones that are much worse, much more further self-created than this one, especially since at one point this was two parcels per se. It's not really a major issue to go back into that current residence there.
And the zoning is only half-acre zoning in the village too, and this is, way over half-acre zoning, so.
Yeah, that's true. It would kind of conform close to, what would be the zone, what would be the acreage on the other property now with that removed?
It's 3.2 and 3.236 for the stone house and 2.005 for the two-family house.
Okay. Does anybody have any comments they want to make on whether or not this is, as far as 193 Huguenot Street's self-created difficulty here?
I do not.
Okay.
So on that, Tony, as you know, most, typically any area variance where they're asking for something that's not consistent with the code is self-created, but it's not determinative of the overall decision on the variance, unlike a use variance where that one factor would require you to vote a certain way and deny it. That's not applicable here. So even though it's self-created, that is only one of the factors in the balancing test.
Yes. Okay. With that said, we're not going to vote per se on this application, but from what I've understand, and I have not heard, first of all, does anybody have any major objections in any one of these five factors for this variance?
no,
Okay. With that said, I'm going to ask for a motion. Ashley, you're going to have to write a motion for each one of these variances. Am I correct?
You could do just one motion at the end after you
Okay,
go.
then I
through
will
the
not, then I
other.
will not ask for a motion yet on this particular variance. We'll go on now to the second variance for 193 Huguenot Street, which is an area variance to non-conforming pre-existing structures, 18.08 feet from the stairs to a property line versus 20 feet. Wait, have I got the right one here? I might have been.
No, I believe it's
I have the wrong one. I apologize.
33.9 feet
Yes.
instead of 50 feet from the front yard.
Right, so we're asking for a variance here. This is the 16.1 feet variance. My fault. I had the one on top that I should have gotten rid of. The area variance due to non-conforming pre-existing structures, the distance from the stairs to property line of front yard is 33.92 feet versus 50 feet. Applicants asking for a variance of basically 16.1 feet. With that
Yes.
said, that's the correct variance. So again, we're going to give it a litmus test of these 5 factors. And so my first question to the group is whether, again, an undesirable change would be produced in the character of the neighborhood or to the detriment of nearby properties should this be granted, if we granted this requested variance. Would that be an issue?
Right, this is a front yard setback for which building?
It's, let me go back to the second slide, sorry. It's for this building right here. So in other words, this driveway kind of curves around like that and goes to this garage over here. So the front yard of this structure would only be 30, what do we say?
33.92.
Yeah, 33.9 versus 50 because this.
Now, where does it start, Holly? Because it's actually longer than 50 feet from the road.
Oh, yeah, yeah. That's
So-
exactly
The,
right.
the front yard, because it's the new shape of the lot, the new configuration, it's the front lot line is no longer going to be that street lot line. It's going to be up closer
Right.
to the
okay.
portion of the driveway, or
Right.
I guess probably at like the end of
Right. The
the
driveway curves
where the
around
driveway
this.
turns to the
Right.
to the
It curves
second
around
lot.
this utility pole and then,
Yeah, I figured. So it basically starts somewhere where that pole is. It's basically you're almost calling that driveway leading up to it a street before your property starts. But there's no change to anything here. This is just where they're calling where that front yard starts.
correct.
Okay.
Will it be a change in the lot line? So it'll be when the lot's split, it'll be
Yeah.
a
yeah.
different,
Right.
It'll
the
split up
property
there.
split. That's why,
Yeah.
but nothing physically as far as.
Mm-mm.
Now, quick question, Holly. Who will be responsible for the maintenance of this driveway?
Well, what we did is we created the lot line more or less down the middle here so that they would have equal responsibility for the driveway. And it would be a common easement with, for driveway and utilities. I thought that was the best way to do it so that each owner would have, the same amount of obligation for maintaining it.
Ashley, if we do approve these variances, could that be written into our decision, or we have no jurisdiction there to make sure?
So that would be a condition of your decision. It would be to require both planning board review and approval of the subdivision and including the planning board's approval of a driveway, a shared driveway easement and maintenance agreement. And that document will be required to be filed with the Ulster County Clerk. That way it's in the chain of title. So future owners of the properties are put on notice of their obligations to maintain that.
I'd like the comments of the zoning board. I personally would like to see that. What about the rest of the board?
I agree with you.
I have submitted a draft, a very basic draft to Alana and DPW. And I haven't gotten any comments back, but I did submit a beginning draft for that.
We're going to ask Noah and Mike, do you agree with that there'd be?
Yeah,
Yes.
I guess I'm curious about why you and Sean think that should be a part of the record.
Because the two-story single family red house in the back, if the stone house property decides to do no maintenance, they have to do the maintenance and pay for 100% of it, or they can't access their property, where the other people in the stone house can just use the gravel driveway. So they're going to be in a pickle there if there's a dispute. So if the driveway needs repair, there needs to be something written so that both people are paying for it.
Noah, my feeling on it. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Especially for like plowing. I mean, you look at the plowing there, the two-story single family red house is going to have to plow themselves out. If they plow themselves out, then all of a sudden now the other person doesn't have to plow. So, this definitely has to be written really, so that forever that that's a shared driveway and that they're going to split the maintenance costs and split the snow clearing.
Right, but the stone house does also use the garage that is in the back of the stone house, which is also uses that driveway. So
Yes, but if they choose not to plow that, let's say they're away on vacation and they choose not to plow it that month because they don't need to, the other person's gonna have to plow out because they're stuck back there. So,
No.
and they could also, they could say, well, I'm gonna park on the street and just stomp in and not have to pay for that. So, that has to be spelled out that they're gonna be on the hook for paving that and all the costs and the snow removal and all that stuff, because otherwise they're just not going to pay. I mean, that's
Right.
what.
No, we agree. We want the easement.
Okay,
so that's something that's very, that's standard that I can't imagine the planning board would ever approve a shared driveway without having that mechanism. You need the easement in place to have a legal right for both to use the driveway since it's on both properties, and then also the maintenance agreement that's standard and always part of that as well. So
Yeah.
what it would be is this board wouldn't be, approving or reviewing the actual specific language and getting down into the weeds as to what it's going to say. But what's standard is that it would be, required that there be a shared easement and maintenance agreement for the common driveway that's acceptable to the attorneys.
Yeah, and Noah, just to answer your
That makes sense.
point on that, I just want to keep the zoning board in line. I know the planning board is going to have this written in. I want us to be consistent with that and in our own determination that we've also considered that fact as well. In case someday somebody doesn't go to the planning board, they go to the village zoning board and they look at our decision, I want it to also back up in case they don't go to the planning board. You'd be surprised what they pull and they don't pull from this documentation sometimes. So I just want to make sure that we're in line with them and that we agree with their thoughts on a shared driveway.
Sure. Okay.
Okay, our second factor is whether the benefits sought by the applicant could be achieved by some other method that's feasible to the applicant to pursue, other than this area variance that we're examining. In this instance, I don't see much, and I mean the pole is where it starts, and that driveway is going to go up to that pole, and that yard is going to start from that pole, no matter whether it's a split lot or not. It's still there. I don't know if I necessarily agree with how we're measuring that out there, but it's there. The only other factor that would prevent that would be not to grant the variance. So I don't know if that really has much impact here. What do you guys think?
If they expanded the driveway another 10 feet to the left, they wouldn't need this variance. So you see how it's like a tapered thing? If they just went over another 10 feet, they would have the distance to the road. So it looks like you could do this without us. If you just, that shaded area that is on the map right now that we're looking,
Right
I'm
there,
sorry,
yeah.
looking at the map, the top view with the driveways with the hash piece in. Do you guys see what I'm talking about?
Yep.
So nope.
This part right here.
Yeah, if you zoom in, you see where the line, do you see that line that says 33.9
Yes.
feet? If you just extended the shared driveway over, it looks like about, I'm guessing just from looking at proportions, I'm going to guess around 10 feet. If you went 10 feet to the left, you wouldn't even need this variance, because then that would be over 50 feet away once you included, if you just made that taper just a tiny bit bigger for shared driveway, you wouldn't even need us to approve this.
The thing about that, it's more paving.
That's exactly right. And I know planners usually don't encourage additional paving and impervious surfaces, just.
No, I'm
because of
not
environmental
saying
issues.
make that area shared like you're making the driveway shared. You have grass on the shared driveway area. I can see it here that you have if you go to where that, you have a huge amount of area that's shared.
Are you talking about right up here, this part?
I can't see what you're pointing at.
Oh, you can't? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Let me go back.
So what what would need to happen, I think, is what Sean's saying is it would be moving the actual, that property line. So where that property line
Over here.
splits, I guess, the driveway, that property line would have to be moved in order for, then I guess the front yard
Yeah.
would be measured from the road because the property line would extend, the property line in front of the,
Yeah. You move the property line 5-10 feet to the left, all of a sudden this is a non-issue.
Yeah,
Well, but-
I think though, perhaps, I'm not sure with the stone wall where that,
That's where the wall is. That's why the left
Yeah.
wouldn't work because there's that antique, stone wall that I think it would really not look, it wouldn't, the appearance would change from the
no,
front
I
of the
happen to,
house.
I don't disagree, Holly. If I have a choice between forcing you to put that there and not giving you a variance, or just giving you the variance and leaving the driveway as is, I'd rather.
I'm not
I don't
saying-
think it would be moving the actual driveway though. I
I'm
think
not
it's
saying
just
move the
driveway.
The property.
Yeah,
I'm
no,
not
but you're not moving it, but you're adding to it.
No, I'm not saying add the driveway. I'm saying move the property line. If you move the property line 10 feet to the left, all of a
you wanna
sudden
move
this
the
becomes a
property line.
non-issue.
Oh.
Okay, all you have to do is move the property line 10 feet to the left, and all of a sudden they're now 100 feet off the road. They have a 100-foot front yard, and this whole discussion goes away with 10 feet moving of the property line, and there's nothing there that would make a difference. It's not a big deal.
Who's responsible for the property line? For writing it?
For what?
Who's responsible for establishing that property line?
Well, so they're seeking to do that. They'll have to file new deed descriptions with the county, or they'll be filing a subdivision map that actually, I mean, they'll have to have their surveyor file, prepare a map that's going to be ultimately filed with the county to establish that the new boundary between them.
I mean, if you had sent this map to us earlier, we could have fixed this, but we got this a couple of hours ago.
Well, I'm still
So-
not really understanding what you're saying because then
If you move the property line to the left 10 feet, you will have a clear view of the red house to the all the way to the street. So then
Right.
we don't
But
have
then
this
you're
meeting.
giving-
It's not necessary.
But then you're giving the red house the entire driveway.
No, that would be shared. You'd still have a shared
But it
driveway.
wouldn't be, I guess what it would be, it would be a shared driveway or a common driveway, but it would really be located completely on the one lot.
Yeah,
Right.
And
which
it
is
would be.
Yeah,
the
no,
lot
totally
would be
normal.
An easement and would still, have the maintenance agreement. It would just be located completely on the one lot.
And it would also give more acreage to the two-story house. We were trying to keep that at 2 acres.
well, you have plenty of room because as you said before, it's half acre zoning, so it doesn't, that's not going to matter.
Why
I think
why were you looking to keep the property at 2 acres?
More for kind of interfamily issues and keeping as much value to the stone house as possible.
Could you move the property line there and then move it back into the driveway at least 50 feet closer to the road and then keep the acreage the same?
You're talking about less than a tenth of an acre if you move that property line just that foot. You're not talking anything like that. You're talking. What are we talking? We're talking. You would need to move it 20 feet. You need a 10 by 20 foot area. That's nothing. That's all you need to get the clearance there. If you move that property line 10 feet to the left and go up, it's 33 feet. You need 50 feet. You got to go up 20. No, you need to go up 13 feet. No, sorry. I have glasses on. I'm having a hard time reading these numbers. You'd have to move it 17 feet. A 10-foot by 17-foot property, jog in that line would fix everything, and you wouldn't have to have this meeting.
Sean, are you talking about the side or the front? Because the front, if that front line was just moved, I guess, over that
Yeah.
portion of the driveway that goes to the one-story house. Because now I
Yes.
think I'm confused what,
Okay, so you see where the line is? It says 33.9 feet.
yes.
Okay, So if the property line started there, okay, and went fit 17 feet towards the road and then went right to the driveway, then they would have the frontage they needed for the front.
I guess our only concern about that was, I mean, we were just trying to keep, kind of keep the driveway pretty much evenly divided between the two properties. And this way, it really wouldn't be. It would be, well,
You can fix this really easy. And then we don't have to make a variance for this.
right, but then the two-story house will
Have a
the
10-foot
owner-
by 17-foot additional piece to it, yes. So
Right.
it'll have 170 square feet more, which is nothing on a 5-acre parcel.
I just thought
It'd
for
be less than
ownership,
be less than 1/2% of a difference.
I just thought for ownership issues going forward, it might create more issues. That's what we were trying to avoid.
I guess, just a quick question there. So under that, I think if that were to be done, then that portion that's leading to the 1-story, the stone house garage, that portion of the driveway would be located on
Right.
the other lot.
On
So,
the other
but that
lot.
lot wouldn't be actually using any portion of that.
And
Is that-
Ashley, what is the legal, how would the planning board handle that as far as shared usage? Is that long-term? Is that forever? What is that, what's the impact of
But
that?
so any shared driveway agreement, it's going to be, filed against the property in the county clerk's office. So it's going to be in the chain of title so that the ability for them to use it. But I think what
It runs with the land. When you file an easement, it
Exactly.
runs with the land, so.
I
It will
think
be
that
all
what
the future.
the applicant perhaps was trying to say there was that portion that leads only to the 1-story house would be then located on the lot 1. So the portion of the driveway that just leads to the lot 2 garage is going to be, or would be located on lot 1, and lot 1 wouldn't use that portion at all. Is that?
If we make them change the property line, is that gonna require any side variances from the other house? Does that require, I mean, even though it's opening up the land, is it gonna require anything different there?
I don't know. I think it would depend on what the configuration was.
Yeah, that's another concern because we may be closing the door on one variance and opening up the door on another variance. That might be required all of a sudden. Then we may put somebody else out of code by doing that.
What's the dimension? Is it a 15-foot lot line requirement on the side? Is that right?
The side, I believe, is 20.
And I'm trying to read this.
Yeah, I can't see it. I've got it opened up as big as I can. It's a little hard to read.
Is it 34.16? That is from the number 2 that's in a circle towards the hash lines?
That's 24.16.
All right, so let me ask this
Yeah,
question.
well, just number 2 is the garage, right? That number is over a garage.
I believe I think the number 1 is the garage, and the number 2, I think, is still in the driveway.
All right, I have a question on this. This is for the board. This is the third factor, and I didn't want to elaborate on this. Whether the requested the area variance is substantial. We're looking at 16 feet. It's basically 5 yards. I don't want to, when we have a saying, don't give me Big Ben when all I want is the time of day, right? Don't. So I just want to ask this question. To change this boundary or possibly open up something else, if we're looking at basically a 5-yard request here on a variance, which I don't consider the 16 feet in this scheme of things. I don't know. I question whether, I don't like giving out variances, and Sean has the absolute right idea here. We don't give out variances if we feel the applicant has another way to relieve, or very simply relieve it. I don't know if this is as simple as we think, and let's weigh that possible lack of simplicity with it's 5 yards on the other end. So
I don't think it's 5 yards.
So
And
the
this is
variance
why,
is 16.1 feet.
no, I don't think it's even that much, because I'm like, and this is why I wish this was here earlier. But this is, I mean,
Well,
you see
this was
that 33 point,
This
that
was
30
submitted earlier. This was submitted in April, so.
the 33.9 thing is at an angle. So if you, I'm just taking a piece of cardstock on my computer.
well, Corey went out and did measure this, Sean. Corey went out and confirmed. Yeah, he did a measurement here.
All right.
So I feel pretty confident that we're looking at 16.1 feet
Okay.
or reasonably close. And we're talking 15 feet or 17. I don't think they're off by that much. I think you
Okay.
can call it 5 yards. So
It's roughly
before-
a 32% variance, 16 over 50, is that right?
yes. I'm an engineer. My math should be quicker than that, but you're 100% right. Yes. So, I mean, I'm giving it in distance total. We're looking at 5 yards,
Right.
basically. Let's keep that in mind. And then what I'm going to do is, because if somebody feels very strongly about factor number 2 and another way to alleviate it, believe it or not, Ashley, if I feel somebody feels strongly about this, you'd have to almost write two motions on this. Two drafts, because one might be approved and one might not be. So I'm going to go through all 5, and then I'm going to ask that question very specifically to the board. First on the original variance, if there's anything there that you feel strongly against, and then on this second one. And if you feel very strongly against, I'm going to take that to be in a certain direction. Okay. So let's continue with these 5 factors, and then I'll circle back and I'll give you guys time to think about how important you think that second factor is, as far as whether or not the applicant should be able to go work around that, or we're going to force her to adhere to it. The fourth one is whether the requested area variance would have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or the district. I don't feel that what we're talking about here right now is lines and distances. So as long as I don't see anything changing, nor do I want to force the applicant to change anything. What are your thoughts, guys?
Ask the question again, the third question, Tony.
Whether the requested area variance would have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood. I don't personally think that right now.
I don't see that.
I don't either.
Okay.
Nope.
The last one is whether the difficulties professor. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Oh, good. Okay. I'll get to the last one. Whether the difficulties professed by the applicant were self-created. Obviously, to some degree, when we talk about, there's always a small degree to this or a large degree. It's depending on what we want to determine and whether or not that offsets this. I don't think that this question here is any different than what we discussed on the first application for the percentage of the driveway. So does anybody want to comment on that?
This seems more self-created than the other one, because these lot lines are being drawn, now, versus an existing infrastructure, existing physical infrastructure.
Who drew the line? These lines come from the county? Or
No,
did
they
it
drew
come-
these. No,
Yeah.
they drew these.
So this is their proposed configuration for the subdivision.
Oh,
so
you're
the-
right.
The
I'm
map
sorry.
was prepared by their
They
surveyor.
could-
or-
Lines
They
based
could
on what
easily move this line.
Yeah,
They could
okay.
easily move this line and fix this.
I would agree with what Noah said there then. Okay. And I agree with Sean as well. All right. So here's what we're going to do then. Since I think that everyone would agree that the first variance for the 13% driveway lot coverage I think we'll discuss this one in a macro sense really quickly. Does anybody from the first variance have anything that they strongly feel against or against possibly voting later on some point for the approval of that variance? Does anybody feel it strongly against anyone that the applicant's violating one of those factors so strongly that they'd have a problem with that variance?
I do not.
Michael?
Are we talking about the front yard variance?
No, we're talking about the driveway exceeding the 30% of the frontage.
Oh, no, I have no problem with that.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm the same.
Okay. All right. Before I ask Ashley to do a draft a decision on that, I want to ask this next one very specifically. So what I'm going to ask, I'm going to go through each board member, and I'm going to say, I'm going to start with Noah, and I'm going to say, I'm only going in the order that you are on my screen. There's no particular reason why I'm picking the order here. Noah, based on the 5 factors that we've read aloud, do you feel one of those, that the applicant is in such violation of one of those factors that you feel very strongly, I'm wording this very carefully, strongly against the
I mean,
overall variance?
So if I could just jump in here, because
Go right
this
ahead.
is not, so if you want to actually, be voting on the variances tonight, because it's kind of, essentially it seems like you're doing that. And if you want to do that, you could go back to the first one and take an actual vote, and then.
Well, actually, I
I'll
can't
put-
ask you to I can't ask you to draft a written decision consistent with our discussion if I don't have an understanding of what possible direction that the
No,
board
no,
is going to bring.
I understand that. I'm just thinking that it's essentially, it's kind of just more than that at this point, that maybe you're ready to
Yeah.
make a decision.
Well, again, you like to hold off, per our discussion, you like to hold off on writing these drafts until we vote at that time, correct?
That's the method I think makes sense. But if you're prepared, I mean, you've done it, both
Well,
ways.
listen, I'm
I don't
gonna
want to
take
just
you-
make it more complicated unnecessarily.
Well, the thing is, we may have you may be writing 2 separate drafts.
Understood.
You
Okay,
know what I'm saying? So,
understood.
let me get the temperature of the board and my own on this second variance before I do anything. So Noah, without, how do you feel about that? How strongly, just giving me, how strongly do you feel the applicant being able to work around that second factor that we discussed on the second variance?
Yeah, so I think that Sean's point is well taken here, that the applicant could certainly solve this in a different way. I think that the material impact of granting this variance is not very strong. And so I think this goes more towards, how important is it for us as a board to avoid issuing any variances ever, right? Like, what is the general thesis? I think.
I just want how strongly you feel against it.
I mean, I don't think this has a material impact on this process or on future owners of these properties.
Sean, same question.
Yeah, I'm struggling with this because this is something that could have been fixed by the applicant by moving a property line a few feet. It's to ask for a variance when the solution is really obvious sort of pains me. So that's my main problem with it. Because they're drawing the line. I would have no problem with this if this line existed beforehand. So if this was the line from 200 years ago that grandfather put the well in at this spot, I'd be 100% behind this. But they arbitrarily drew a line wherever they felt like it. The line has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bends in it that I can count. So this, and I'm just gonna give me a second. Yeah, so it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bends in it. So You move one of those bends a little bit and this whole conversation never happens. And that's what that I feel pretty strongly that, you're supposed to, if there's a way to do this easily, and since they drew the line, they can move the line.
Mike?
Yeah, I agree with Sean. We can have a larger conversation in the future about what our board is here to do and our sort of philosophy, but I kind of agree with Sean that, this could easily be solved and you don't have to, break the law and come to us for an appeal.
Okay. Here's what I'm going to do, because taking the temperature of the board, I feel that we're going to have two separate outcomes for these variances. So what I'm going to do is, Ashley, I'm going to ask the board I'm going to make for a motion for the first variance. Alana, I have the applications here, but I do not see a particular number on these. Should I be referencing a particular number for the driveway of lot 1 exceeding 30% of the frontage for that variance? Is there a number here I should be referencing?
It's, the application is technically ZB 2102. I don't know if Ashley, do you have like a precise code offhand? Because maybe he could reference that.
Sure, or if you want to maybe reference, because they're all under, Tony, that ZB 2102, all of the variances are under that
I'd like
same
to-
number. But you could call this the driveway frontage
Yeah, there. The
variance.
driveway frontage? Okay, I'm just going to call it. So here's what I like to do first. I'd like to get a motion to authorize our attorney for the zoning board of appeals to draft a written decision consistent with the discussions that we've had with this variance for the driveway frontage and exceeding 30%. We know how, I think we have a pretty good temperature of how the board is going to vote on that. So I would ask for a motion to authorize the attorney to do that.
I'll make a motion to authorize our attorney to draft that decision.
I second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so Ashley, we're going to ask for you to draft a motion for that area variance. Okay, and we will do a vote next meeting on that. So that let the applicant know that that should proceed pretty smoothly. For this second one, this is what I'm going to ask the I'm gonna ask-
I could do, two versions of a decision as well. That's an option.
okay, so this is what I'm gonna do on the second one. I'm gonna say that after deliberations, the vote is going to approve or deny this application at the next meeting. Ashley, I'm gonna ask for a motion, and someone from the board will have to do this. Give me that motion to approve one application or or deny that application. So you'll be writing two of them, subject to the adoption of a written decision to be drafted by council. Does everybody understand what I'm asking?
Or I think what you want to do for this one is a motion to authorize me to draft two proposed decisions.
Okay, so it's basically to approve.
I think that should be the motion for this one. A motion to authorize the ZBA attorney to draft two proposed decisions for the front yard variance application.
So
Someone wants to so move that.
Yeah, so can I get a motion then for our attorney to draft two written decisions, one to approve, one to deny, for the second area variance for 193 Huguenot Street. And I guess we should call that variance, that's basically asking for that 16 feet.
That's a front yard variance.
Front yard variance of 16 feet. Can I get a motion for that?
Can I ask a clarifying question?
As long as I don't have to say that again, you can ask the question.
Why would you like to draft two separate decisions?
Well, I have a pretty good temperature of which way we're going to vote on that, but I think it's just always good that we have two prepared.
So I think what it'll be really, Noah, is I'll have two separate, that one, element that there was some lengthy discussion over, basically one decision, it'll be modified, just that part of it. A lot of the decision is going to be the same. And then really just to reflect how strongly the board's going to weigh that one factor.
I think always that I don't have a problem for us to wait 30 days to take that vote. I think that it's good to have both of these written. It's going to be, I think, an interesting vote. We'll leave it at that. And let's be prepared both ways so that we can proceed forward immediately with however the board votes.
Can I
think
ask
that's-
another question? I mean, I want to get to the decision, but what happens if we're the 4 people on the board and we're 50-50 on it?
It would approve.
No, it would deny, actually.
I thought it's approval. We had this discussion already.
No, if it's a split, it's a administrative, it's a denial if it's 2-2.
Okay, well, that's fine.
So
I could have sworn we asked that question
if
before.
that's the case, do we need two written?
Most likely not. Okay, most likely not. All right, but let's have it.
All right.
Okay, if our attorney's willing to do it for us and to do a second one, I'm okay with having it there. But you know, again, I have to be careful with how far I take this, but probably not.
I'll make a motion to draft 2 decisions.
Okay. Can I get a
Seconded.
second? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so just so that's in right, so we'll know what we're gonna do on our on our meeting in July. We're going to vote on both of these. We have drafts prepared and multiple drafts prepared for one if necessary. And we'll go from there. I think the applicant has a pretty good feel to how this is going to move forward. So,
I'm a little confused because I'm not understanding if it's both variances that are being in question or just the one that is the 33% of the
Front yard.
it's
where the property line was drawn. We can refer to it as that variance. No, to your question, obviously the board feels stronger in one direction than another concerning both. They do not feel the same for both of these variances.
But which is the one that
We feel stronger that you'll be happier with the first one, the driveway 30%.
Driveway's 13%.
I know, but it's exceeding the 30%. That's why I said that.
Yes, correct.
and that is the one I feel like you have more of an objection to. Am I
No.
correct?
No.
It's incorrect.
Okay, so then I am confused. So I see what you're saying is to move the line that is more or less down the center of the driveway to the left in order to give the 2-story home a house more.
I believe what it is it's moving the line, no, it's moving the front line. So it's moving the line that's closer to, that's closest, and Sean, correct me if I'm wrong, but the line that's closest to that 2-story single family house. So that's, right
Okay.
now it's,
So you're moving that line to prevent having so it'll be more like the 50 feet. I think that's required.
Yes, that would allow you to actually, if you did that, it would allow you to withdraw the need for the second variance.
Mhm.
And that's what basically we are advising you strongly to do.
Okay, I was a
Okay.
little confused about that.
No, that's okay. I get confused much easier than that, so don't worry about it. It's absolutely fine. So with that said, I think you have a pretty clear direction, Holly, to how we're going to proceed by the next meeting. And you probably can make any adjustment. We would advise you to make adjustments to that second variance. Would be the best way for me to word it.
And that's the front yard variance.
That's correct.
Okay.
All righty. I think that concludes the business with 193. Ashley, can you clean me up on that? Am I good?
you're good. I believe that's all that's on.
I'm
Okay.
just, I just want to let you know that I'm getting some text from my siblings that are joining in on this call. And so I mean, it's something that has to be discussed with them as well.
Okay, that's absolutely okay, Holly.
Garage, but that gives the garage driveway to the barn. But it wouldn't be so I guess the question is, let me just ask you now so that we can sorry, I have to go back to this other slide. This driveway, so by doing that, a portion of this driveway would now be the front, part of the front of the two-story house, but not the whole thing. That's
Yes.
what
Holly,
I'm saying.
well, hold on. Before we start the comment, Holly, my advice would be to sit down with Corey as the building inspector and have that drawn and get his input to the best way to draw that to avoid needing a variance. And I think it'll come out to where Sean is saying, but I would leave that up to the building inspector to really advise you.
And Sean, this is what you were referring to? Because I didn't
Yes.
understand that when you said that before.
I'm talking about do you see the line that says 33.9?
Almost done.
Yep, 33.90.
So if you extended you see that, do you see that property line that says 24.16? You're gonna have to put a little jog in that. Okay, and it's not gonna be that much because that property line you have is not parallel to the house. So you're only gonna have to move that a few feet. It's not gonna be a huge deal, but that will completely alleviate this whole entire problem. It will make the front yard of the two-story single red house slightly larger. Yes, it will do that, but you will
And
still have your driveway.
And it
you will
could
still have your.
possibly, right, and it could possibly go down the middle of that middle of this, possibly. The middle of where like the dog is in the picture.
Well, right, your surveyor who's drawing these maps will be able to calculate exactly where that could go if you decided to just do a straight line, or if to keep your acreage equal, you might move some of the other points.
You could do that. That's exactly right. No, that's why I would suggest to have your surveyor sit down with the building inspector
Yep.
and just hammer it out. And I'm sure they're going to find something that's extremely equitable and easy and would save the need for a second variance.
That's right.
Will Corey do that, Alana? Will he sit down with us and?
I think so. I don't see why not.
I ask him a lot of questions all the time if I look to buy a property. He's very accessible, and I think he's here to actually to guide you in a way that would prevent anybody from making a mistake. And he's the best person to discuss with this.
Mhm.
So, all righty. All right. Thank you, Holly.
Okay.
Alana, do we have any further business that we would need to? There's some village
I'm
updates.
sorry. May I just ask one more question? I know
Go
you have
right
other
ahead. I'm
business.
sorry. Go right ahead.
So as far as the public hearing for planning board, should we try to get on that agenda, or is that not something that we can do at this point?
Again, it's entirely up to the planning board. If the liaison was here, she'd be able to advise them.
I do think the planning board's gonna want to wait until there's been a zoning board decision.
Okay.
I would agree with that.
So you'd have to
Because
proceed
they
anyway.
can't, they have no, ability to do anything, and because the plan's still technically not code compliant until it gets it variances. So they're gonna want to have the hearing on what is actually gonna be the plan, which is gonna be dependent on this board's decision. So.
And it's something you'd have to hold off anyway, Holly, because if you're going to have to redraw that line on the second variance, you're going to have to do that right now anyway. So there's not anything that we could do to move that quicker along. But if you can get that done and remove that second variance, you'll be ready to go most likely after July 13th.
Okay.
All righty.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Holly. We appreciate it.
All right. Now I have to figure out how to get out of all these screens.
Yeah, just to make sure we don't lose us. So,
All right.
Okay.
Have a good evening, everybody.
have a great evening, Holly.
Okay. Thank you.
Alana, do we have we've got the minutes from the last meeting. We put them in a record. We've got the CT letter in. Is there any other business that we need to conduct?
I don't believe so. I think you guys can adjourn unless Ashley has something.
No, nothing for me.
Music to my ears, Ashley. Okay,
can't
so
figure
can I
out
get
how
a
to get out of
motion to,
this.
nice job tonight, Sean. Can I get a motion? Oh, what's up? Go ahead, Noah.
Quick question on having a conversation. Do we need to, as Mike alluded to earlier, have a conversation about the philosophy of this board, or is that not
I mean, I don't know that there's necessarily, it's every application that comes before you, you have to look at with a fresh set of eyes. It's really gonna, the facts are always gonna drive it, and how the facts fit in within your test. So it's not necessarily, the board would never have a philosophy that says, well, we're always gonna think this factor is, more important than this one, because you can't predetermine any of that. It really, you're gonna have to just weigh everything, on its own. So when things come up with, I think it really will just go back into whenever you're talking about the factors and jump in and say, I think it's important for this application because of X, Y, or Z, as opposed to kind of a broad board viewpoint on it.
Right. It was more the question of like, do we in general try to avoid granting variances as much as possible? I mean, that's my essential question.
I think you're on the right track, Noah. I think that, and I think Sean brought up, I think I think what he brought up tonight was a good example of that. And I think it convinced the board to go, and he's right. And it is supposedly that philosophy, and it should apply across the board with any community, is that variances should almost be considered as a last resort.
And my major problem with this is they didn't draw a straight line. There are 6 jogs in this line. You thought about this. If they had a simple line going straight across, I'd be totally fine with this. But there's 6 turns in it. This is completely self-created. They chose that's where they wanted their line to be, and that's sort of.
No, that's a good point, Sean. And I actually was remiss there because I did not see this map till and again, I wasn't at the first meeting.
Yeah.
But, and Noah, you did a good job there too, because when I said that it fell in line with the first self-created one, I was wrong. It didn't. It is more severe. And I appreciate the board. You guys did a great job, because I think that you put it in the right direction. And I don't think that I think you did the service tonight to New Paltz, because you're not supposed to really give out variances like we're giving out candy. And I think this board is doing a better and better job at that. And I think that you should be proud of how we handled this tonight. I was very impressed with you. So with that said,
Sean, just if I can, I think, and
get the last
maybe
word.
you go back and look, because I don't remember offhand, but it may be that those additional, points and jags in the line was to avoid that need for that side yard variance. So
Yeah, but
I'm not sure if that.
Yeah. Okay. Then if you're going to fix one thing, fix them all. I figured it out in 2 seconds. I just looked at him like, you can draw a straight line there and be done with it.
Let's see what they come back. This is why we're drawing up 2 versions of this, because if the building inspector comes back and says that they cannot do this for some other reason, we may want to rethink us awarding that second variance.
Absolutely.
So that's why we're going to draw up 2 versions of this. We're going to see what Corey comes back with their surveyor. And if it's, and Sean, to your point, if it's something that could be a few different, it can be done with an eraser, then it should be done with an eraser rather than us issuing a variance.
I agree.
Now I got the last word. Is that okay on this one?
Yeah.
All right.
Very good.
With that said, can I? All right. Can I get a motion to end the Zoning Board of Appeals meeting for June 8th?
Aye.
All right. Second.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
And we are writing off Saturday Night Live.
Have a good night,
everyone.
everyone.
All right. Good night, everyone. Good
Good
job.
night.
All right. Bye-bye.